there could be people who are just joining us for the first time. So Resource Cloud Academy, to introduce Resource Cloud Academy to you, Resource Cloud Academy is just a group of like-minded individuals who are enthusiastic about the cloud, looking to build careers in cloud or any switch from other fields towards technology and cloud specifically. And our aim, our mission as Resource Cloud Academy is generally to equip the future generations of what we call global tech leaders. We call ourselves global tech leaders with the necessary skills and experience so that we can kill this industry, not kill it in a bad way. Yeah, and then now the vision is to create a supportive and collaborative community that fosters new ideas and creativity, not just for not just at the moment, but also for the future generations. I know for us, we take cloud as a differentiator for everything. You could be having any other skill in IT, but at the moment, if you just supplement it with a cloud, a good grasp of cloud, you have a better edge in the industry. So today, our topic, this is Cloud Thursday, is just one of the sessions we do have, and today our topic is on cost optimization in the cloud, and we are very honored to have two two I can say very skilled individuals who have over the past years been exploring the cloud, doing a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff around the cloud, talking to us, or leading the discussion today, and that is Albert Sitati. Albert Sitati is a Cloud Solutions Architect at Spate Consortium, and I do have the pleasure of being in the same team with Albert Sitati. I can say the things we've been able to do, or the insights he adds to the team are cannot like I can't quantify it. So he's just the right person to be talking about this or to be addressing this topic. And then ZP is a cloud solutions architect, also an AWS cloud solutions architect working with Silicon Overdrive. Also, and I've also had the pleasure of interacting with ZP on a personal level, and the knowledge she has is also something to admire. And this discussion will be I'll format it in form of questions so that it can be more interactive. So I basically have around 3 questions for our speakers, which will form the basis of the discussion. But they're all around how costs can be optimized in cloud. Albert has a strong bearing in the Azure side. ZP has better foot in the AWS side, but I'm sure they all have a multi-cloud mindset and they can all give insights on how costs can be optimized in the cloud in the cloud in general. So welcome Albert and ZP. I look forward to a great discussion and welcome everyone and thank you for joining us. I hope you learned something from this. So to start us off, I'll throw it over to ZP. So ZP, I'm going to give you a scenario. Suppose you have an organization that is just considering to adopt cloud services, because this is where it usually starts. An organization is considering to use cloud services, and but now they are uncertain about the cost model. Or so how can you go about it, about helping them avoid financial pitfalls or just make wise decisions around costs? Over to you, ZP.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Please confirm I'm audible.
Hey ZP, your voice is a bit low.
Okay, just a minute. How about now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, awesome. So, thank you so much and good evening, everyone. It's very nice to have you here. Now to the question that has been posed. So, you've said that we have an organization that is looking to, or rather, that is considering to move into the cloud, and they want to understand the cost model and uh, how would I advise them in terms of avoiding financial pitfalls as they make this move? So, okay. Okay, so I'll divide this into two parts. And first, I'm going to say the recommendations I would give them before they make the move. And the second part will be the recommendations I would give them after they move to the cloud. So, starting with before the implementation, rather before actually moving to the cloud, there is definitely a couple of things they will need to understand. And the first very key thing is that they will need to understand for each of the services that you're going to be using on the cloud. So we know that the costing, or rather, each service it's charged differently. Each service that you consume will be charged differently, but there is a baseline cost for each and every service that you use, and the three key domains that you need to consider, especially for any service at all, it's there are compute charges, there are storage charges, and there are data transfer charges. So you'll find that in most cases, these three domains are what will actually determine the net cost of any service that you're using. So with these three domains in mind, first things first, if you want to use maybe a compute service, or if you want to use a storage service, or you want to use a database service, an application service, understand each of these domain, how is it charged? If it's an EC2 instance, for example, or rather if you simply want a server in the cloud, you need to understand how will you be charged for the compute capacity of this particular instance? How will you be charged for the data that you store on this particular instance? And any communication to and from this particular instance, how will that be charged? So you need to understand across the three domains for each and every service that you are looking to use in the cloud, how it is charged. That is very, very key. The second thing is understand the costing tools. So there is one of the very nice tools that James mentioned a bit earlier is what we call the AWS pricing calculator. And this is a very, very handy tool that you can use to get an estimate. Uh, yes, that you can use to get an estimate of your cost. So what you do is you simply key in the services that you're going to use. For example, if it's a database, I want to host a database in the cloud, all I would need to key in is what is the size of database that I need? What are the resource specifications that I need for this particular database? And I'll get an estimate for in a month. This is what I'll be incurring for running this database in a cloud environment. So obviously, this is very good insight because you're looking to understand what should I expect when I ultimately make this move. So understand the tools that are actually available to you to help you create that estimate before you move, before you make that move, so that you know beforehand, am I ready to pay this price? Am I in a position, or does my budget actually fit what it will cost me to run on this particular platform? Then something else, it's another very great tool that we use often is what we call the migration evaluator. But this tool is specifically for if you're running more of a production kind of environment with um, a large number of servers. So if your organization is in that stage where you've probably been running on premise, or rather you've been running your workloads on premise, you may have some 5 to 10 to 30 servers, and you're looking to migrate all or maybe some of these servers, and you want again to understand, is this a feasible move? So in such a case, this is when you'd use such a tool. And what this tool does essentially is that it assesses your environment, your on-premise environment in this case. So it will assess in terms of the configuration of these servers. It will assess in terms of the utilization of these servers, the cost that you're currently incurring for running these servers. That is on a monthly basis and of course annually, and ultimately, so you usually you'll let this tool run for about a month or so just so it can collect enough data. So ultimately you get a report, and this report, what it provides is that it will give you a holistic view of, if you took this server and if you run it on this particular on or rather if you took this server and you run it on a cloud platform, what will it actually cost you with those same specifications that you have, with the same level of utilization that you have on premise? What will it cost you? And it goes even further to provide you a view on the different pricing models. So that is, we know that the default pricing model in the cloud is the pay as you go model, which we also call the on demand model. So that is where you pay based on your usage. But there are other offerings to help you manage the costs, basically for your compute instances, or rather for your compute services, what we call the discounted pricing models. So if any of your servers will qualify for that discount, it will show you that should you opt to run using this pricing model, this is the kind of discount that you're going to get on your charges. So ultimately, you get a very holistic view of what to actually expect when you make that move, or if you make that move. What will be your charges in a month? What will be your charges in a year? What will you be saving if you change your pricing model to something and something? Maybe reserve a couple of your instances, have others running on demand, maybe reserve all of them. So all of that. And again, this is very key information to have at hand if cost is a big factor for you in terms of when you're deciding whether or not to make that move. So that is the before part. So now,
Wow.
say that you've done all this, you've analyzed, you've created an estimate, you've seen everything, and you're like, okay, I'm good. Then let's move. So what happens after you moved your services? How do you now actually um, understand your cost now within a cloud environment? So the first very key thing is that you absolutely need to understand how are you billed. You need to be able to access and query your billing details. And what this means is you need to be in a position to understand what is it that you're being charged for, how much are you being charged, and what are your spend patterns and all that. So you'll find that each cloud providers, they offer these particular details. On AWS we have what is called the billing dashboard, and that is the one that is, it's a consolidated rather console that it will show you all the details that are related to the charges that you're incurring. So it will show you your bills, and your bills are grouped in terms of each service and how much is being billed for it. Uh, and Yes, each service, how much is being billed for that service, which region is being billed for that service. And that is very important because sometimes you might switch a region to test a service, and then you completely forgot. You switch to another region and you forget that, oh, I'd launched something in another region. So that's that forgetting it. When you come to query your cost, you'll find that I'm being charged for this service within this region. So you can go and check and you'll find, oh yeah, so maybe there's something you forgot. You launched something and maybe you forgot to maybe clear it up and all that. Then there's also what you call the cost management console. So the cost management console is another very important tool in AWS when it comes to cost management, and you absolutely have to utilize these tools if at all you need to manage your costs. And what the cost management console provides is, it's reporting on your usage. So it will collect the data from the data that is collected from your bills, your monthly bills. So it will collect that over a certain period of time, and then it will give you a report, an aggregated report for example, this was your spend in January, this was your spend in Feb, this was your spend in March. So you can actually be able to extract patterns of your spend. You'll be able to see, I'm spending the most on maybe a database, or I'm spending the most on maybe my key management system. And from this, then that very key step is, once you understand these patterns, you can then set a budget. I think this is the thing that most people forget a lot, but it's very important to set that budget. And um a budget on AWS, what that means, it's simply you specify that I want to get notified when my charges reach maybe $10 or $100, whatever amount you're comfortable with. So for example, in a test environment, you wouldn't want to your bill to exceed something like $50. So you set a budget like, when my amount is maybe half of this, you can set for half of this, or it's at this particular level, then notify me. So that again, it's a very good practice, because you won't you'll avoid that situation of you get a bill at the end of the month and it's a very high bill, and it's complete shock because you did not expect it. You don't know how that amount actually accumulated. So it's very important to actually set that budget. Yes, to set a budget once you're running on the cloud, based again on your spend patterns. Back to you,
Mm.
Sam.
Aha, nice, nice, nice. Thanks, ZP. That's really awesome. I think the greatest takeaway there is I love the way you've divided it into two, before they move and after they've already migrated to cloud. And I think the biggest catch for me is first, before even they move, they should understand how the on which spheres are they being built. On They should understand that if they are moving their workloads to cloud, they'll be built on the compute power they'll request for. They'll be built on the on the storage and and the networking, like the three different major spheres. And after you move, I think the greatest takeaway is know the tools you can use to know the tools you can use to manage that cost, the sort of cost management console and so forth. So I think that's great. I don't know, there was a question on the chat. I think you've addressed it. Don't know if I guess, yeah, I think it was the one, pricing calculator. And I think you also mentioned the migration evaluator, which is now before the migration also. Yeah, so I think that covers what Prince had asked. So uh, to throw it over to Albert, maybe, okay, someone has already moved to cloud. There's At the moment there is that fuss of or the hype of moving to cloud, and some businesses are just moving because of the hype. Some are moving, yes, legitimately. But now suppose a business has just moved to cloud, they've migrated to cloud, and then their main aim was to save costs, and then they get to the cloud, they have their workloads in cloud, and they realize a few months down the line that, hey, the dollars they are being charged per month are unbearable. So the CFO, or the chief financial officer, and the chief technology officer of that company come to you. What are some strategies that and best practices that you can give them, or just advise them on how they can uh, they can take care of that cost, Albert?
Okay, thank you, Sam. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yeah, sure, I can hear you.
All right. Once again, thank you. I guess from that, Zipia shared a better chunk of my part that I could share. She has already shed some lights on us on what we could do as maybe you are a cloud administrator at your place, or an IT admin, and the CFO has come to you with that bill at the end of the month telling you that maybe your cloud bill is past the budget. So what should you do? To me, I'm trying to think coming to cloud can take 4 ways, can take 4 stages. And cost optimization for these four stages are very key, and that starts from designing. From the point of designing, that was very key. At the point of deployment, at the point of monitoring, and at the point of optimization. Since you have already moved to cloud, so we assume that you are at the point of monitoring and optimization. So you as a cloud admin or an IT admin, what will you do? To me, I can attribute this one to around 3 factors that you can do as a cloud admin. One, the cloud tools are there. These cloud tools are really great place that you can go. They really offer you a good place to see on how you will work around that billing. The next thing that I'm going to cover just in a few words, I can call it eliminate cloud waste. Another thing that you can do is eliminating cloud waste. And the last thing that you can do is you taking advantage of what cloud has offered you. First, on going on the tools, a couple of the tools have been shared, and maybe sharing from the Azure perspective of it, I will go. The first thing that I will go at is the cost management. At the cost management, this will give me an analysis of how my various resources are being billed, or the amount of the money that the resources have consumed in that particular month, and it will also give me a forecast of what my resources are. An estimate of the amount of the resources, the amount of money that the resources will take, maybe in a given 1 month or a given particular amount of time. Going there, it will I will see which of the resources are the one which are attributing to these high costs. I'll able to also to see what are some of the resources that maybe they are accruing to high bill but are not of that importance to the company. And the last thing that I'll get from the cost management, I'll also get the cost analysis. This depending on the region where people are deploying my resources. And I can also get an analysis based on the tagging that I use while deploying these resources. So after getting this view, I already have the view, the general view of the billing. What's next? The other place that I will go, my next destination will be the Azure Advisor. Allow me to speak from the point of Azure Advisor, because the Azure Advisor will give me actionable recommendations that I can do about my costs. It will tell me maybe you are running VM 24/7. What about you have changed your mind because you're not accessing your virtual machine all throughout? You can decide you go with spot instance. You can decide to maybe go with auto shutdown at a particular time when you're not using these resources. After advisor, so I'll come to eliminate cloud waste. When I talk about eliminating cloud waste, I'm talking about this from the insight that I got from the Azure Advisor. I'm now coming to implement these insights. For instance, I mentioned there are some of the resources that were running, yet they were maybe my applications or my workloads at the cloud are not fully utilizing those resources. You had set up a dev test environment, but at this particular time, I no longer need this dev test environment. So what should you do? You as a cloud admin or an IT admin in this space, you'll have to share those instances. You have to get rid of these extra resources. And also, when I talk about eliminating these cloud waste, I'm talking about, okay, at first, while deploying these resources, I'm bearing in mind that I catered for reliability. Maybe I set auto-scaling group in place, but depending on the performance of the performance of the previous month, is this auto-scaling really meeting my needs? Because at the end of the day, I need to achieve a balance between cost and business efficiency, because most of the businesses are out there to at least to see they at least have a return in investments. So if my auto-scaling group it was there, but yet my application of the workloads is not using the capability of this auto-scaling group, I may have a change in mind. Maybe I reduce the number of instances to scale to maybe to a bit slower one. And the last thing that I will do in this place that it will really help the chief finance officer and the company CEOs, it will be on using the advantage that the cloud gives me. For instance, we can have the things like hybrid benefits. Maybe there's that point where I can bring my own license to cloud. There was a license that I was using on-prem. There's high chances that I can bring this license to cloud. So I will have to take advantage of such thing, bringing this license to cloud so that I cut down on costs. And the last thing that I can mention is on the reservation. And this is something that ZP has mentioned, and maybe to say one word about it. When we talk about reservation, you have gone to cloud and you speculate to use cloud in the next maybe a couple of years. Why not going for reserved instances? So I will advise the company, since you're using cloud and we speculate to use the cloud for a given period of time, we can opt to go for reserved instances. And above all these things, let us not forget the things like budget, setting budgets, alerts, and policy in a way that we can put their policy. You as an admin, maybe you say we only allow people in this company to deploy resources in this particular region. Why? Because this particular region, the services are cost effective, and therefore I believe that most people or the people in my company should adhere to this rule. So you going there by policy will really help you. And the last of the thing is tagging. Tagging will come in a way that at least you'll able to see who are these people who are deploying these resources that are maybe past your budget. We have, when you give tag, maybe depending on departments, depending on the functionality or the workloads, you'll be able to stream down to a particular resource and a particular person who did that, and you see if they have the right permission, or maybe you can limit their permission in how they can deploy resources. And I believe by taking advantage of the things that I've said, the company will still believe in maintaining their workloads to cloud a bit to see some changes before they can have a second thought. Back to you, Sam.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Albert, for that. I just a question. You mentioned four areas that you need to be keen on cost. You said designing, deployment, monitoring, and the fourth one was.
Optimize when you come to optimization.
Oh, so it's you look at the cost at the time of designing, at the time of deployment, at the time of monitoring, and also at the actual optimization.
Yeah. When you
Oh,
look at that spectrum, at least you ensure that at every stage this cost optimization mindset is put in place.
mhm.
And at the end of the day, you'll see that at least you're able to have visibility on your costs.
Thank you. I think that really covers it well because looking at the four spheres, it's basically everything that all activities that you will be doing in the cloud fall in those lines. You are either designing, you're either deploying that service, you're either monitoring that service, or now you're looking at how you can optimize that service. So even as you optimize it, I think it's really key to look at how does it affect the cost. You can be optimizing and giving away there has to be trade-offs, I believe. So you can be optimizing that service maybe for performance, but you are the other trade-off is now the cost. You might have to incur that cost. So thanks, Albert, for sharing that, and I love the way that you've also highlighted that as much as the cloud you can use auto-scaling. Auto-scaling has to be really planned well so that it can serve you right. Some a company might have a baseline, might define a baseline that does not really save them any dollars. But I think also, and I think it also falls in the designing aspect. As you design, you also design for how that service will auto scale also. So thanks for that. And just all of you have also mentioned the idea of pricing calculators and the two different tools that you can use. But now to use the question, there's this idea of hidden costs. There's some hidden costs that are just there in the cloud. So could you maybe just highlight or elaborate more on these hidden costs and how you can account for them?
Okay. Oh, hidden cost on the cloud. Okay, it's interesting. So the thing is, the concept of hidden cost, I believe it comes from, for example, let me put it this way. let's say I provision a server on let's say AWS. Sure, I've provisioned a server. So my basic expectation here is that I know without a doubt that I'm going to be charged for the compute because it's a compute instance. So I know without a doubt that I'm going to be charged for the compute power of this particular instance. I know without a doubt that I'm going to be charged for what is it called, storage, for the storage that or any data that I store on this server. And I might know without a doubt that I'm going to be charged for the data transfer, so anything that I send out or I get in from this server. So I think the hidden cost where they come in is with integrations, because this is something that is often overlooked. So, for example, let's say, yes, I have this server that I'm running, but I've integrated it with another service that, for example, something like I've set up notifications for, what could it be? For maybe the state of my instance. So you would find that there is that extra cost if you didn't if you didn't take into consideration the fact that this other service that you've integrated with, let me call it your main service, but the other integrations, they're actually charged separately. So you will still be charged for those notifications, but you might overlook that. So ultimately, when you get that bill, you will find that it's a bit more than you had anticipated because you didn't take into consideration those other services that are essentially working with your service. So that could also go for something as small as a key, a key that has been set up for authentication. Remember, there are usually managed keys that are usually set up automatically, but some of these keys you'll be charged for. So if this is not something that came to your mind when you are setting up this service, you might overlook that, which of course will again, when it shows up in your bill, it might catch you by surprise. So essentially, I think that's where the hidden costs usually come from. So I think the only way to get around this, or what I would say in terms of getting around this or managing this hidden cost, is again have a very holistic understanding of not just that one single service that you're running, but understand how is it relating, if it has any dependencies, if it's working with any other service in the background, even those, especially for the managed services, whatever is underlying, it's you're not the one who manages it. So that's where some of these costs may come in, but understand all these integrations because some of them are enabled by default, but you're still charged for them. So you need to understand all the dependencies and all the integrations of any particular service that you provision on the cloud.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, I like the idea. Like the, the thing is having a holistic view of that of that solution, not just one service. And so I think the takeaway is you have, as you go to the pricing calculators, use these tools. You also need to factor in everything, and it means everything. Thinking of how that solution will integrate with everything else. So yeah, thanks, DP. So to the audience, I don't know if do you have any questions or something to add on to what the speakers have said? Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Yes, Juma, I can see your hand up.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. First, I'd like to say, uh, say thank you to Albert and Zipi for such an insightful session. And maybe just one thing to add on is when it comes to cloud, maybe if you're not quite sure of the type of services or rather the cost that you're going to incur per month, what you can do is there's a concept called it's not a concept rather, but we call it start small and scale as your workload according to the behavior of your workload. What you can do is get to that cloud, spin up the smallest EC2 instance, okay, maybe with an auto-scaling group, but with the least metrics, and see, monitor how it's going to perform. With time, remember, the cloud will give you the flexibility of scaling up, down, according to traffic being experienced, according to how your application is going to work. So you can start small and upscale as maybe traffic growth and all that. And the reason why it's that small is that you're going to pay less as compared to maybe you're not sure and yet you're provisioning resources that are kind of over provision, which at the end will lead to incurring extra costs that you had not planned for. So if you don't have a plan, start small and upscale as according to the behavior of your application. That's something that I wanted to add on top of what Albert and CP have discussed. And yeah, I hope I've tried to eat at home. And thank you so much.
Awesome perspective, Juma. I think that's really key, and especially for people who are coming from on migrating now from on-prem. You see, I think the idea in on-premises designing, you in most cases you do design for also for future growth. Maybe if you're purchasing servers, you purchase servers that can serve you even as your workload grows for the next 2 years. Why? Because physical servers take a long time to deliver. Like there's a lot that goes around setting up the physical servers. But my take will be, actually, even if you have a plan to scale up, there's no need of provisioning that big server at the moment, and you want to scale up maybe in 6 months. So the good thing, and that's the beauty of the cloud, is that you can provision that small instance, and then you just scale it up by the push of a button. If it's increasing the RAM, if it's increasing the number of instances that are running your application. And I think that is really something that businesses can leverage. And thanks, Juma, for highlighting that.
Awesome, thank you.
So I can see Paul had requested a recap on the spot and reserved instances. Albert, you had mentioned that. Could you kindly?
Okay. Right. Okay. Let me say something about just in a few minutes. We talking about spot and reserved instances. Spot instance, that's an instance that you're using it, but at the time when maybe another person wants to use it, or we can say the cloud provider can snatch it away from you, but you'll be given a notification maybe in 1 hour time. Maybe your instance will be shut down or something of the sort. The idea of going with a sport instance depends on your workload. Maybe you are having a workload that is not running throughout. You are running your workloads, and your workload can be allowed to be interrupted at particular times. So instead of you having an instance running throughout the day, you can go with the sport instance, whereby if someone else wants to use it, the cloud provider can snatch the instance away from you, and then you'll be given back at some later time. So by doing so, when you come to cloud, you only pay for what you use, and you will only be charged based on the time you use that instance. And by going with spot instance, it therefore means you'll save some amount of money. Then on the reserve instance, this is like the way you are reserving it. You telling maybe the cloud provider that you want to use this particular instance for this particular amount of time. Probably it's usually 1 or 3 years. You can take an instance in 3 years, and the benefit of this is that it comes with huge discounts. So instead, suppose maybe using a given instance could take you like maybe $1,000 in a year, you can get up to around 57% of discount, and it's really a significant deduction in the amount that you'll have to pay. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Albert. I think that's well explained. So another thing that I'll just like you, Albert, to address, for example, why is we know that it's the cloud, it's a data center that is somewhere, and we're just connecting to it through a network. So why is it that different regions, deploying resources in different regions costs differently for the same resource? And points out to something that you had also highlighted, that you need to know where you're placing your resources, the region you are deploying your resources.
Okay, thank you. This is majorly attributed to the fact of whether the region has matured or still growing, and also depending on the economies of scale. For instance, if you choose a region like our case, or most of the African people, you choose North Europe or Ireland. When you go, this region is fully matured. It has all the resources that you need, and therefore it enjoys something that called economies of scale, meaning that with large amount of customers, you're able to get huge discounts compared to South Africa, which is the region closest to us, but not highly advisable because South African region is still growing. It has not yet matured, and you can get some of the services are not there. And since the region has not yet matured, it also means that it has, when you compare in terms of the customers it has with other regions that have matured, the difference is so significant, and therefore the advantage it enjoys from the economy scale, it's a little bit compared to the matured region, and that tends to make such region to be a bit expensive.
Nice.
Okay, back to you, Sam.
Nice. Thanks for that. I think that has cleared the air for the cleared questions that most people have with regards to why different regions are charged differently. But I realized just a while ago that Oracle Cloud is the only cloud that charges the same way for all its regions. So yeah, if you want equality, Oracle has equality. So I don't know if there are any other. I think we've really, it's been a discussion of around 45 minutes, but there are a lot of takeaways from this, right from as the piece started on before you come to cloud and after you've already put your workloads in cloud. Then Albert elaborated on the 4 spheres that you need to check on when you're deploying your applications to or your workloads to cloud, that is designing, deployment, monitoring, optimization. And then also ZP has highlighted the fact that you have to look at the holistic picture of what you're deploying, not just the big services, not just the virtual machine, not just the big instances that you're deploying. You also need to look at the dependencies. What comes with it? Is it that um, that key that you're going to use? It can actually be a source of some costs that you will be blind to.